See this episode's show notes for our unique promo code to get up to 2 months of free podcasting service with Libsyn when you sign up for a new account. Get your show on Apple and Spotify, get helpful stats, and all the support you need to sound your very best.
Hey everyone, this is Phil
and Lulu
of the Capes and Lunatics podcast.
You're listening to Into the Night,
The Moon Knight podcast.
Yes, welcome back, Loony listeners. You are listening to Into the Night, the Moon Knight podcast. This is episode 278, and you are with both of your High Priests of KHONSHU, both to guide you through this reaction episode. I'm one of them, Ray. And with me, of course, is Rebecca. Rebecca, welcome back.
Hi.
Yes.
Hi.
My gosh, this. Yeah. I don't know. It doesn't let up for me. I mean, we have seen these episodes
There's
before.
lot in this episode.
There is, but I just get so excited. I mean, I'm excited to chat about it with you.
I know. I was like pestering one of my friends who knows a lot about Egyptian mythology and stuff. I was like pestering her about it, and I was like, tell me a minute you've seen it. I need to talk to you.
Yeah. It's so great. It's so good. So we're into the third reaction episode. So Loonies would be aware that Rebecca and I do a reaction episode shortly after the episode airs, followed by, over the weekend or so, a panel discussion with a few other Loonies to kind of broaden the discussion, pick up stuff that Rebecca and I won't be able to cover in this reaction episode, and just hear every other Loonies' thoughts. So before any of that, a big shout out to all our patroonies. A big thank you to everyone for jumping on board. We've got some new patronies, Rebecca, which is bloody awesome.
I know.
But a huge thank you to them. A big thank you to our primary sponsors, Drew Tombz, Daniel Doing, Frank the Tank, CLZ Comics, and Dreamland Comics from Schaumburg, Illinois. Rebecca, let's get straight into it. These are always kind of meant to be, like loose, kind of our initial thoughts. Like listeners, you may have just watched it as well.
I think I have to tell everyone that usually we have three or four main points. Mm-hmm. We have a lot, like 10.
Yes.
So, but we make, they're just points we make for ourselves. Some of them are very
points.
small. Some of them are small.
Yep. Some of them we can. Yeah, we can dive into. So this was the third episode, as mentioned, called The Friendly Type. It was released April 13th, 2022. Directed by Mohamed Diab again, so he's returned. And writing credits to Beau DeMayo, Peter Cameron, and Sabir Pizzada. And also, Rebecca, you've mentioned they were also in the credits as well. Let me pull that up as well.
I got the list of all of our actors and stuff.
All the actors as well.
But I was mostly laughing. I mean, the main reason I sent it to you was because it says Mark Spector / Stephen Grant / Moon Knight / Mr. Knight, Oscar Isaac. And I was sort of teasing Ray and saying, I mean, we can say it now after this episode, but how much longer do you think that list of names is going to get before the end of the series? So anyone who wants to engage in a bet, see how many more you think might get added to that. But I listed it in case I'm guessing Ray can chuck it in show notes or something.
Yeah,
in case anybody wants to know who was playing which avatar. Because only two of them were named, had names. The others are just Tefnut's avatars. So
yes, and I guess Rebecca, if Oscar Isaac has any more credits to it, they're going to have to reduce the font even further just to fit it all in one line. But absolutely as well. So I'll chuck that also in the show notes, so you can see a full list of the cast there. Very exciting indeed. Let's get into it, Rebecca. What we do, before we start, generally Rebecca and I will talk about the curvy bits, which are the bulk of the show. Just the main things that people will probably be discussing, and we've got the pointy ends, which potentially are maybe issues.
They're things we think that long-term comic fans might
Yeah.
find more controversial about the adaptation.
Exactly.
That we haven't already discussed. We're not going to go into Mr. Knight again.
No,
because he's not in it much this
Exactly.
episode either. But like we discussed that for episode 2, so like
Mhm.
we're trying to stick to sort of new ones,
Just new
because
ones that
otherwise we'll
pop
be
up.
repeating ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So Rebecca, I mean, what do you want to open up with for this episode?
Well, rather than take it chronologically, we jump straight into the big Pyramid of Giza scene with
Yes.
the Aeneid and Khonshu, or as Noel would call him, one volume Khonshu.
That's it. I had that in my head when I watched it
Yeah, I
again.
did
It's
as well,
hard
like,
to not.
he literally just has one volume.
He does.
But also, so like all the dynamics in there. So like number one, straight out for comics fans, we're talking Overvoid, which is exciting to hear, right?
Yes,
Just
yes,
to even hear them say we're in the Overvoid.
and relatively recent as well. I mean, the
Yeah,
Jeff
I
Lemire
mean
run.
that's a Lemire thing, yeah. So
Yeah.
but it's such a cool way of making it otherworldly without, like, because obviously, there are, they could be in the Pyramid of Giza, but this is very much, this is a supernatural one. We're all going to
Mhm.
come in through our portals.
Yes.
So we have the avatars of 5 of the gods,
Mhm.
which we wrote down.
Yes.
Hathor, Osiris, Horus, Isis. I want to try and pronounce it like they did because I presume that's right. And Tefnut. And the only one, so the ones that we see Hathor's is kind of takes Mark's side in the end.
Yes.
And then it's Horus's, right?
Horus.
No,
Yep.
Osiris.
Oh, Osiris's.
Osiris's. So so the guy whose name is
Salim. Yeah, Salim. Yep.
So he's Osiris's avatar. So if you want to, he's the one that takes Harrow's side and possibly working with Harrow.
Yes. And just off the top of my head, and thinking of the Jed McKay run, Osiris as well didn't end up well in the mythology. I recall from Khonshu.
I don't think so, but I'm not gonna.
Okay.
I'm not gonna...
Well, there's it. I could be wrong, totally wrong, but apparently the relationship in the Egyptian myths don't go well there. So they're not that that their relationship isn't that good. Whereas it seems that Hathor,
seems to be friendly with Khonshu, or the friendliest. And I think isn't normally in the Aeneid, but I don't know. That was just something somebody said in passing this morning. Who knows? But I didn't really pay attention because I was also working. But also, like, part of that whole showdown, which I thought was, I thought it was the first time that you couldn't really say Khonshu's. I mean, apart from the volume thing, like, you got more of a sense of Khonshu not being played at all for laughs.
Oh, absolutely.
Like we laughed because of the comedy, but like it was a serious situation for him in that he's bringing this to the other gods, and you can tell they're kind of not a little bit annoyed with him. But it also has that sort of Harrow coming right at Mark for his mental health, which is so like impactful and hurtful, and like, but you also get Mark sort of saying, "Yeah, I am unwell."
Yeah,
but that's not. So that shouldn't matter, because that doesn't mean that Harrow isn't trying to raise Ammon.
No, true. I mean, there's a level of almost like of shame that Harrow, when he reveals this about Mark.
But I think it's also like so. But I think there's something very powerful about Mark owning it and saying, I'm unwell, I need help, but that doesn't change the facts.
Yes.
So it's like he's certainly not running from it now, especially as he's got Stephen commenting on all his fights.
Oh gosh, Stephen, coming in not the best timing, I'd say as well. Like poor Mark
never the best
has to deal with that. Yeah. And he mentions again that to Layla later on that he used to have control of this. Like, again,
had it under
mentioning
control until recently. So
as
when
again the
she
walls
asks what
were
happens, he just kind of shrugs it off, like it doesn't really want to say.
Yeah. So that also begs the question, Rebecca. the Ennead, look, 5 of them were revealed. And we know at the beginning in episode 1, Steven says there is actually 9 because there are 7 shown on the poster in the museum. So we're missing a fair few.
Yeah, and I'm guessing some of the other podcasts will have paused a lot during that scene and
Mhm.
like matched up the statues to the who was
Mhm.
there, who wasn't there. Because that was one thing I was like, oh, if we had time, we'd totally like pause it
Yep.
and go match statues to gods, but we didn't have time. So
No. Look,
I'm guessing there's definitely clues in that room as to who the missing ones are. The one thing I didn't see in this episode, and again, somebody will raise it, I didn't see where the QR code was. Like, I
oh, I
assume
didn't see
it's
that as well.
yeah,
Yeah.
I assume it might be in that opening room when they're doing the passport because I can't think of anywhere else you could slip in a QR code. Like,
Yeah. You're
but
right.
I didn't spot it, so I'm sure that will be
In,
all over the internet very soon.
no, no,
But I
no
just I
QR
thought,
code. No
yeah.
QR code in Giza in the Pyramid of Giza. You
I mean,
think?
who knows? You know what it could be? The
Yeah.
statue of Khonshu at the end, if they turn it upside down.
Yeah, underneath, yeah.
little made in Egypt or something, and a little QR code.
Which you also said, Rebecca, they need to make that statue and sell it.
I want that statue.
Me too.
That's like my number one merchandise I want. Is that now you've all seen the episode, I can tell you all that. Like, how cool would that be? And it's something you can't replicate for other shows, but like
Yes.
the actual sort of Khonshu trapped in stone kind of. I mean, maybe a bit creepy to want in your room, but
Yeah.
you know, of
A
all the
little bit.
Khonshus I want in my room, trapped in stone is a good look.
I mean, speaking of that, unless there are other points in that Ennead interaction. I mean, there is so much there, as you said. I mean, that was a great scene with Mark and Arthur Harrow as well. There's a mention the lead up to that is you don't want to anger the gods. Mark and Khonshu have that conversation, so Khonshu decides to do a lunar
To anger
eclipse
the gods.
to anger the gods. It brings up this summit, which is the Ennead, and it gets their attention. So also as well, it establishes how Khonshu is really not I guess liked, or he's got a really bad reputation amongst
There's
them.
certainly, yeah,
Yeah.
they definitely come down on we're only supposed to be watching these people. We're not
Yeah.
supposed to be meddling, and Khonshu is for sure meddling.
Yeah, it sounds very similar to the Eternals in the fact that we've chosen long
Yeah,
ago
and like,
not
look,
to.
Harrow basically flat out calls him abusive.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
they they do that whole sort of like, oh, if this is you can tell us, is he abusing you like he abused me? And
Yeah, and you see that at the end as well. I mean, I'm not sure whether they're crocodile tears, like no pun intended, but when Harrow and Salim shows Harrow this Khonshu statue, he's got like tears in his eyes, and then he kind of confides in Khonshu because he says, "Oh, can he hear us?" Oh, he probably can. So he confides in him about how his sin is that
what broke him, yeah.
is what broke him, but his sin was actually enjoying meting out this violence.
And then on the flip side, so
Yep.
Hathor's avatar, Yatsiel at the end tells Mark this is a safe space if you want to. So she's coming from the
Yeah.
sort of more safeguard. It's like they're all approaching this Khonshu relationship from a safeguarding aspect, whereas Harrow is coming on with his own baggage and like. But they are basically making a safeguarding argument is that like Mark isn't Khonshu's abusive and Mark's not mentally ready for this.
Yes. Yeah.
Or strong enough for this as he is right now. Which I thought was, I mean, I think they trod that line quite well without sort of really flagging up, like just flagging it up as if mental health could be an issue we all have. It wasn't like, he is right at this moment. His mental health is a little bit wavering because he's not got the DID fully under control, clearly, in the fact that he is not knowing. Well, I say that. I mean, like, he certainly seems to be having some sort of issues.
Yeah.
But we could all be like in that room and be told that we're not mentally strong enough right now for this, and they didn't sort of. Yeah, Harrow laid that case. Like he's got his wedding certificate says this. His his jobs, his salary says this. But he's just kind of laying it out factually a little bit.
Yeah.
Like, he's not really going like. I think we've all seen films and TV shows where they could have done that a lot more heavy-handedly. And
Yeah,
I thought it was quite well done to say that, number one, Harrow isn't above using anything he can to make his point,
it's
even
true.
someone's mental health.
Yeah,
But they didn't go over the top to make him, fully. And then you have that flip side of like people worrying about it, and
yeah,
Yatzil sort of saying, this is a safe space for you.
yeah.
Although I
One of
don't
the
know how he would think it would be. I mean, it's a little bit terrifying.
no,
The whole
it is. You're in the presence of gods.
Yeah.
I just want to raise like a little point because I had been chatting with another loony. I'll bring it in here because it did make me think. So Daniel Doing, actually one of the patronis, he chatted to me saying it's really he was really against obviously Harrow being a bit of a dick and stuff. But in the end, he had like, why wouldn't they know what Harrow is doing? Like Salim says, he's done nothing wrong. He's caused no offense. But do they know? I mean, they're gods, right? Do they know Harrow's digging up looking for Amit? And
They don't
Amit
seem
is
to
such a
believe it. I mean, like like they seem to think that. Oh no, when Harrow comes in and says, "Oh, I was just wandering in the desert," they're like, "Okay,
yeah.
fine, whatever."
But
Although
wouldn't they be
like
able to see it, or I don't know? I don't think
obviously
gods.
Yatzil does
Yeah,
kind of believe it by giving
yeah.
Mark this other way to find the tomb.
Yeah. And the other point, I guess, in tandem with your point, Rebecca, about DID is the point of difference with KHONSHU is that all the other gods seem to really take more of a backseat. KHONSHU, they're talking about KHONSHU having a bit more flashy physical presence in the world, where they've chosen to sit back and not interfere with anything. That they'll probably influence,
Yeah,
people and stuff, but they won't be as full full
they won't be
force
hanging out
as
there telling him to drop children off roofs or anything.
yeah, yeah, exactly. He's like,
Not that
oh
he
gosh,
said to do that, but
but how about that's I don't know, what do you call it, snark from
I
Ponchu?
guess
Oh,
I guess
I
that's the
thought he
next.
would talk.
Yeah.
That was-
I mean, I guess that leads on to another curve bit, the fight. That
yes.
fight. I mean, we could do all the
Mm.
fights. Like so that fight.
I loved it. I mean, just seeing Mark in action. I think this is what a lot of Looney followers, Moon Knight fans were waiting for, to see Mark in action.
I thought it
Some
was
of them.
interesting that they did it out of the suit. So like it was quite
Mm,
good because like Mark is a fighter, you
he's
could bring it
great.
in.
Yeah.
There were some silly moments for me, like the licking knife. It was
Oh,
silly.
but
I mean, like
I thought that
it
was
was a
pure
nice nod,
Indiana
but it was
Jones.
so
Yeah.
dumb.
Yeah, yeah. I like because it really, for me, this episode really has that Indiana Jones vibe, and not just because of the setting, but it's like you hear that Moon Knight theme in the background, and you know how it's kind of repeated, but it's like done
Yeah.
in a cinematic way. It just has that kind of, uh, you know, John Williams did that for Indiana Jones as well, so it just has this kind of vibe.
But
I
the
think.
whole sequence of the fight was so
Mm,
fun, from that, like launching the episode in the middle of him parkouring his way across
yes.
like the
Yeah.
roof. Then he's like, then Steve, like you're either gonna like or dislike the Stephen interjections of like, don't do this. But I think
Yeah.
it fits with the end of last episode when he said the blood is on his hands too.
Hmm.
When
Yeah. Yep.
Mark gets the body back.
Mhm.
That so I still think there's a lot of cuts in some of the fights that it would be kind of fun to see a really long one that didn't sort of cut around, but I think they need to sometimes. And then what
Yeah.
happens? Then they have this big gap before when he's in the cab. So we
Yes.
lose a little bit
Well,
of time.
that's a point of difference because it shows Stephen as actually taking control. He actually managed to cross that void, so to speak, and
But did he
take
though? I
control.
mean,
Because Mark didn't. Mark didn't. He found himself in the cab, right? And he
yeah,
didn't.
but are we like, isn't that a Jake
Oh, that
moment?
could. Well, yeah, that could be
Yeah,
later
yeah.
on. Well, I mean, that's a very good point to go into the next
We
one
don't
about.
know. I mean,
We
like,
don't know, but
although I guess
yeah,
Stephen is more likely to be the one that said, "Get me to the airport," and
and
was
he
only
let them
speaking
go.
English. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
and he let.
he go and he was speaking English. So I think
Yeah,
you're right. Probably was Stephen.
yeah,
And then
because
we get back to Mark, who's speaking Arabic, and
Mm-hmm.
he's like, "What's going on? Why am I
Yes.
going to the airport?" And then he spots them, which is a little bit of, oh, that's
Yeah.
convenient. But,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is.
it
But I
is
mean,
quite
it's still
funny.
It's so cool. Just a little bit on the before I forget about that action sequence as well. I thought it just watching this time round, it was good to see Mark use a bit of boxing. I mean, in the fight scene. So when, as you mentioned, Rebecca, the guy licks the sword in that very
Yeah.
corny, or the knife in a corny way. Mark actually just starts jabbing him like a boxer. So I
Yeah.
like that little nod to his roots as a boxer. But yeah, we go to a couple of blackouts,
Next
Rebecca
stage
and
of the fight, yeah, and then we potentially have another altar, or both Mark
yes.
and Steven say it's not them.
It's
So
definitely spelled out because I think they say it again later on.
yeah,
A mention of it's not me. I swear it's not me. Who's
and
done
to be
this?
honest, it doesn't really fit anything we've seen Steven do,
No,
even when
not
in
at
the
all.
suit. So
Not
like,
at all. And Mark's
s-
definitely not.
no.
Hasn't
So
done it.
that's our bloodiest bit of the episode, and that's our potential Jake. So that's
Yeah.
and we're just gonna call him Jake. I mean, they could have made up a different altar. We don't
They
know.
could have.
We're all gonna
Yeah.
go with Jake because that's who we know.
Speaking of bloody and violent, Rebecca, you just reminded me. And I'm just going to bounce over to the other fight scene with Moon Knight, amongst Mogart's men and Harrow's men.
Yeah.
There were a couple of like Moon Knight breaks a guy's like kneecap and
There
and
was
he
a
twists a
lot of
guy's
there was
pretty
some
brutal
good
stuff.
implied and actual. So yeah, let's talk about that fight. So then we have
Yeah.
the catching bullets in the cloak and launching them
Oh,
back at people moment.
well,
Pretty cool.
that is very cool.
Controversial, but pretty cool.
I'll put that
We'll
in the
return
pointy
to that.
ends, but we'll return to that. That's very cool. Speaking of other violence as well, just off the top of my head, Moon Knight is impaled, right, multiple
Yeah,
times with
so
these
he switches to
poles.
Steven for some
Yeah,
unknown
that's
reason.
right.
Like, and Steven's just like, oh, let's just stop fighting. And then
Yeah,
he's like, no, take back the body and gives it
yeah,
back to Mark,
yeah,
like while
he
he's being
does.
speared, like
Well,
through.
he's being speared, but he gets a guy and he actually impales the guy on the
Yeah,
spear
yeah.
that he's impaled on. So it's quite brutal in that
And it's very
sense.
clear, I think, that final crescent dart goes at Mogart and not the horse for anyone worried.
Yep.
I did pause and check that.
Not on the horse's butt.
Well, no, because after someone asked on the podcast about animal violence, that was the only one I was a bit
Yeah,
worried about. But
yeah.
no, they make it very clear the thunk is on Mogart. So
And I guess, I mean, of course, uh, Vale, Gaspard, Uliel, but it seemed like they had left that open, like that potential. For me, it
yeah,
seemed like Midnight
he was
Man Mogart was left.
dismounted. It looked
Yeah,
like he was dismounted, but not.
yeah,
I mean, it looked like it
yeah,
got him in the shoulder or something. So
yeah. But he
it's,
escaped
yeah,
somehow. So yeah, so
potentially. Yeah,
potentially,
I mean, possibly not, given that
yeah, possibly
Gaspard's
not.
died now. So
Well,
like,
exactly. I mean, they could
so,
kind of go either way. What did you
yeah.
make of Anton Mogart? I mean, he a point of difference as well, but
Well, yeah, I
um,
mean, look, he's not the character we know from the comics
mm,
necessarily. I thought he was in the short amount of time he had. He was very charismatic.
I was, yeah, and I liked actually the use of the character. Look,
I
admittedly,
love the whole. So I looked it up, and it is an
yeah.
Egyptian horse thing,
Ah, yes.
and he actually mentions it. He said they're El Murmur games, and
Okay.
like because when he's going, oh, he just puts them on in his backyard, and she goes, no, he gets the professionals in to train him. So
Yeah.
that this is a sort of nice like nod to that. But yeah, so he's an antique dealer, or well, not
Mm-hmm.
antiques, I guess.
Black markets. Yeah, but he likes his
Artifacts, yeah.
artifacts. Yeah,
Yeah,
but
he thinks of himself as participating in philanthropic preservation, which I
yes.
thought was a great line.
Surrounded by gunmen, so
Yeah, yeah.
so heavy-handed there. But no, I think he's used well the character. I mean, like, admittedly, the comic book character is pretty minor. I mean, I don't care what you say. He's like been in a few issues, and it wasn't really fleshed out that well. Here, he's got that role of being the um what do you say, the neutral territory between,
Yeah,
say,
the
the good
neutral
and bad, and
territory, but also
yeah,
the one who's got the crucial bit of information they
yeah,
need.
yep.
Um, and I thought it went well enough. I mean, it's nice. I mean, it makes sense that Layla would know him if
Mm-hmm.
they're both in the same kind of circles and interested in archaeology in Egypt.
Yeah, I like to have a
Um,
checkered past. I like that when
I like
it's
that. Yeah,
insinuated.
I like that they obviously they get the drop of Madripoor, what happened in Madripoor, so we
How
know they
cool
have
is that?
something, right? So that I
Yeah,
think is our first official link to the MCU.
yeah, absolutely.
I mean, in that we've seen Madripoor in the MCU before, but otherwise it would be our
Yeah.
first, pretty much our first name drop to anything Marvel, to be honest.
Is that like a maybe an indirect way to say that Moon Knight will be more associated with, say, Sharon Carter and
I don't know. I
Falcon and
mean,
Winter
I think
Soldier?
it's just I think if we're talking about people who move artifacts, then
Yep.
tying them to Madripoor where we last
Oh, that
saw
makes
Sharon doing the power broking, it kind of makes sense.
makes
It's like,
sense.
that
Yeah.
would be the place where Layla and Mogart sort of fell out over something, but not enough for him not to help her and her new husband.
What's his name? Rufino or something?
Rufino Estrada. That's not another Marvel character, by the
Rufino
way, as
Estrada.
far as I know. But there is a Ramon Estrada in Punisher Max.
Oh,
So.
okay.
Oh, I have even better one for I have an even better one for Russell coming up. Don't you worry.
Oh, yes.
But, yeah.
Before we get to that, though, as well, I mean, just sticking with this particular scene,
Yeah.
there was another quite important little tidbit dropped by Arthur Harrow when he meets up with Midnight Man, Layla, and Mark, saying that Mark has some sort of involvement with Layla's dad, which...
Yeah, and if you tie that together with what we learned last episode about
Mhm.
the archaeologists being left,
Yep.
Yeah.
Execution style in the dig site. This could potentially, Rebecca, open up that possibility that
Well,
Layla
that's
is
gonna.
married.
I mean, look,
Yep.
that indicates some tensions coming with Layla because she was
Yes.
surprised. Mark blanked her. I mean, like, oh my god, in that car afterwards, how much did Mark blank her while
Oh,
he
my...
was putting on his nice white hoodie?
He
Of course,
shrugged it
he
off.
only
Yeah.
owns white. He's Moon Knight. But like,
Were
yeah,
you checking out his arms, Rebecca, when he was changing? I was.
I was looking for the Star of David.
Oh,
It's my new excuse.
That's yeah. But
But yeah, he absolutely, when she was like,
He
I don't feel like I
did.
know you at all. He's like, no, you don't.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
no wonder she prefers Stephen, Mark. No wonder.
And that is a great point. I was about to raise that as well. Similar to the comics, it looks like Layla or Marlene is taking more of a liking towards Stephen. He is the more affable. Let's face it, he's
So
the
this is
more
what my
lovable
friend said
one.
about that this morning. She
Yeah.
said, like, but like, seriously, if you're in a situation where you're less secretive, where you have a less secretive and less murdery version of your hot husband who also shares the same interests as you, you'd also be super into them. It's like, yeah,
Absolutely.
that's fair. Like, I mean, Stephen obviously makes her feel protective, but I
Yeah.
think there is a certain, like, they are both interested in similar things, or they do seem to have similar interests, and whether that's who knows? But it's just
Yeah.
like, I'm not surprised that she feels more. But
Yeah.
also, like, Mark's being quite antagonistic towards her in, say,
Yeah.
that car scene. Not generally. I mean, he was lovely to her on the boat.
Oh,
Saying,
yes, that was a good. That was a nice scene.
that was a nice touch, and you can see how these people could have been married or could be married since the divorce papers haven't been signed. But you could see that there was a relationship there, and I thought that was really nicely done. But then you get later, it makes it so much more impactful how he reacts to being asked about the mercenaries.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
I was watching him, like Mark, when he was saying that stuff to Layla in the car, and I'm just going, how could you be like lying between your teeth, like, and you're just fobbing it off so easily. So in that sense, yeah, Mark is a bit of a douche. But I wanted to call out just the beautiful acting for both Oscar Isaac and May Cullen Moe. There's a bit where Mark turns into Stephen or reverts back to Stephen.
Yes, and it's instantaneous, and
his face is just changes.
Yeah.
It's really cool. And then the look on May's face, like when she
like
looks
she
at
just
him.
knows in an instant. And also like also like when she's sort of saying, you've got to let Stephen come out because he's the one who's got the information we need about how to do this, and Mark's saying, oh, no. But
Exactly. Well, yeah. I mean, we did need Stephen.
I did like honestly though, it was really nice to get an episode that was mostly Mark.
Me too.
So
Yeah,
you
I
get
thought
that
exactly the
fully
same.
sort of fleshed out, and and you're not always worried about what he's going to trip over next.
Yeah, he's very self-assured, and he
But
can.
he seemed a little bit wrong-footed by it not being Stephen, it not being him, the sort of potential
Yeah,
Jake thing.
that was
And
a big
also, like,
bomb.
honestly, that whole end of fight with Khonshu letting that kid drop or not. Well, Khonshu didn't let the kid drop. He didn't think that
No,
the kid would do that, to be
he
fair.
kind of he got into Mark's ear saying, "Look, just question the kid, see what he
Yeah,
does."
threaten him.
Yeah, but he didn't tell Mark to
he
put
did
him
not.
over the
No,
edge.
no, he didn't
No,
know. How was
no,
he supposed to know? These
exactly.
religious maniacs would suicide over that. Yeah.
But yeah, that was really cool as well. I guess that interaction, that the thing that Stephen does in decoding Sefnu's sarcophagus helps with Mark. Him knowing that 2,000 years ago,
The
constellation
sky would have been
stars
different, yeah.
slightly different, which I love because
Yeah.
there's truth to that, and not every night is going to be the same. So Khonshu brings back that night. He remembers all the nights that were. He brings
Yeah.
that with a little help from Stephen, and they get their triangulation, which Hollywood's love of buzzword of finding something. So, so that was good. We know obviously Harrow has got an easier path. He has a scarab. So
Yeah, and
he
he's
finds a
apparently
tomb.
already found it. Like, he's apparently already there when all this sort of like gets in the way. And it's interesting. Khonshu is willing to do it, even though he's been told that if he upsets the gods again, he'll be imprisoned. So
There's a bit of a noble gesture there, then as well. Like, is
well,
Khonshu's
yeah.
either
I mean,
desperate or
there is like he clearly very much believes in his in what he's doing, and we see him get trapped at the end. So it's not like it was an empty threat either. And as he gets trapped, Stephen loses the suit. So, for all we're about to discuss at the pointy end, when we get to it, currently we have no supernatural side as far as we know where we are right now, while Khonshu remains. But he does. I didn't pick this up when we first watched it, but he sort of says, "Tell Mark to free me." So that'll be interesting, given that Mark's obviously had a bit of a fractious relationship with him as well.
Yeah, it had me wondering as well, Rebecca. The whole fact that my speculation a while ago about, if Khonshu's, I thought he would be disowned or something by Mark, and so he would abandon all that the healing armor, the supernaturalness, and would we get a Moon Knight?
I mean,
that is just purely
to me
spirit
is the
level?
big question after this
Yeah.
episode: is what happens now? Do we need Khonshu to come back?
Yeah.
Or do we now get the sort of street level Moon Knight?
Yeah, I was.
Making his own outfits.
Yeah, I mean, while I was watching it, I had visions in my head of, the early Moon Knight in the comics, with the Khonshu statue, and I thought maybe this is it. Maybe that little statue of Khonshu is going to be
that
put into
one,
a big statue or something, and that's just Mark kind of entombing Khonshu, keeping him close, but having his streetwear, so to speak. So I guess we'll have to see.
Streetwear Khonshu. Streetwear Moon Knight. Yeah. Why not?
Also, just one other thing, Rebecca, before we get, I know you've got a really cool thing here, particular for one of the Loonies, but I wanted to point out Beck, one of the henchmen for Anton Mogart.
Yeah.
I think he was mistakenly thought that he would have been cast
That's the one
as,
everyone thought was going to be Bushman.
That's
the actor that everyone thought was going to be Bushman. So it doesn't mean we're not going to get Bushman. Look, we've heard about the mercenaries in two consecutive episodes now. One suspects that means we might hear about them again. Who knows? But all this might be enough of a background. I mean, it gives us. I mean, it's enough of a nod to the comics. But I suspect that Layla finding out about it pushes that into a slightly more important thing to resolve by the end of the series.
Yeah.
So the guy everyone thought was playing Bushman, unless he's doubling up. Who knows? I mean, unless Beck is, he's still got a face. He's still got a face. It can't be him.
Or this is some weird origin of Bushman. Starts off as a bodyguard to Anton Mogart. I doubt it. But anyway, I think lays that to rest about that actor.
That particular actor.
Yeah. But Rebecca, I mean, the very first scene, I love the opening to the episode as well. Has Layla, I'm about to call her Marlene Rebecca, has
It's going to be a running. One or other of us has to do it each week. It's like clear.
But she gets some passports done. She has her connections. There's a little bit of a backstory about her and her dad, and she's been called the little scarab as well, affectionately.
She has her Turkish delight. So
yes, she has Turkish delights. But you found something here, Rebecca.
I did find something. Well, first of all, I'll say that I think her birthday was the 28th of October, 1994.
Oh, I thought about that when we said.
I think it was definitely the 28th of October, but 1994. But then if he was 79, or he was what, 80 something?
87, wasn't he?
87. So 94. So that's feasible. It was a bit blurry. So right. So the woman, according to the captions, the woman who was talking to her about her dad was called Ligaro. Now, I hope you're listening clearly, Russell. Ligaro is the name of a very obscure Marvel character called Dynaman. It was Egyptian. And only has 3 appearances. The first of them in Daring Mystery Comics number 6, 1940. And then in 2 issues of Marvel Zombies Destroy 1 and 2, where they die, apparently. So
pick those up, Russell. eBay, come on.
I mean, look, it's clearly not supposed to be him, but I thought it was interesting that they would go and pick a Marvel character of Egyptian descent, an Egyptian character. I mean, it's like literally talks about them going with pharaohs and stuff like that. So, just a little bit of color there.
We've got a few.
But, you know, I try and do a little bit of research for my instant reaction. Not much.
No, I think it's well covered. Again, I wish I had a bit more time to learn more about Sefnu, the sarcophagus. I'm sure there's a story behind.
I looked up the what they called him, and it's a nomadic tribe from Nubia.
Okay.
So
you have been doing some research, Rebecca.
I'm working, but I was like, I'll just look at. Because I watch it with the captions now, I just was like noting names, and I mean, I totally missed the QR code, so I wasn't doing that much research.
To be fair, I wasn't looking for it, but I'm sure it's there somewhere.
I think this one was quite an action-packed episode, though there wasn't as much. And there's going to be, like I said, I'm sure someone's taken screen caps of everything in that pyramid, and we'll hear a lot more about it. Like, absolutely sure that whatever we've done, we've missed a lot. But that's not the point of the. We're not great at it. And we just have too much fun just talking about it in general.
Exactly. It's all about like a bit of a decompress or whatever of just what we've experienced.
That's what your weekend panels are for.
Exactly. Well, I'm sure
we'll do the work.
We'll get a different perspective there as well, and from all the feedback as well. We can, or the discussions.
Please send your feedback because I love reading it all.
Oh, I'd love it as well. It's great discussions. Shall we get into, I guess, the pointy end?
Yeah,
Rebecca?
we didn't have as many this time.
No, I think the main one. I mean, what do you think the main one would be for you? Do you think there would be issues with Layla being Marlene?
I don't think so. I think people would understand why that possibly has been changed to give her a bit more, make her a bit more kick-ass, give her a bit more agency, and give her a more Egyptian name if they're going to make her Egyptian origin. To me, that's a sort of shrug off thing. But who knows? Because we still don't know that much about her.
No, we don't.
But yeah, I mean, I like what I've seen of Layla. If she ends up being Marlene, I have no problem.
She's great. We didn't mention, I think, but
I think you mentioned while we were watching it, somebody who can make a lot of passports does keep the name Marlene on the table as well.
Absolutely.
That's definitely a Ray comment, but we did discuss that when we first watched it.
Talking about we'll go to New York or wherever, going to the US, and you have Layla going, hello, what's your name? I'm Ms. Alron. Everyone will be going, that's Marlene. That would be great. But it's certainly not out of the realms of possibility.
I mean, for me, the biggest one is the bottom 2 that you've written.
The bottom,
the changes to the power set. But carry on.
I just want to quickly call out for Layla because you're saying she's a great. I'm really enjoying her as a character. She's really fleshing out here as well, and the fact that she had the 2 weapons as her necklace,
on her.
and she she did the guy like she did
She
back.
knew
Like,
how to work with the suit as well. Like she knew that
yeah,
was like bulletproof and
yeah. So really, really fun to see Layla. Sorry, so that was just what I wanted to get
yeah,
across.
yeah.
She's really she can take care of her own for sure. The bulletproof, the bulletproof Moon Knight suit. I guess again as well, and the healing armor that Khonshu says. I guess that's part and parcel with this new costume that we've come accustomed to. So yeah, again, whether or not people have gotten used to that or accepted it a bit more. But I just thought, I mean, I remember seeing the trailers and everyone going, "Oh, so he can catch it?
Yeah.
Like
It's
he's
a big
bulletproof."
shock, like to this whole like
Yeah.
where are all these extra powers coming from and this
Yeah.
healing armor. I mean, the dude was speared,
He's speared
like,
multiple
and he's
times.
like
Yeah.
shrugging it off. But like, I guess it always makes me wonder what they're gonna do if you're not in a standalone show when you have power levels like that.
hmm
But also, like I said, at the end of the episode, he's lost all of that. So
Yes, he has.
that
Yep.
that it makes me wonder if they set it up with that so that now we almost feel it's lost and he has to be smarter to get around. I mean, like, 'cause
Mm.
what's he gonna do next episode? You know, he's gonna have to be really careful because he's going into this like you know, presumably going into this standoff with Harrow of some sort or moving further
hmm
along onto it, but without Khonshu. And like if he stops to free Khonshu, that's a whole side quest. I mean,
Yeah.
maybe, you know, like
Maybe.
it's just like it's like I want to be more annoyed about the armor, but it looked kind of cool in the fight, and
It did.
meant
Yeah.
you could have a more sort of a fight where things aren't just bouncing off him. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously the bullets did, but like the spears didn't. You actually get to see him take some damage there. But then it's
True.
just, a healing suit. Okay, that's convenient.
Yeah. I mean, also
I'm
the
dying to
fact
know how Harrow stopped being the Avatar as well. Like whether
he was stripped or something, you think, or
yeah,
maybe,
well, I
or
don't know whether Khonshu just found Mark and thought, hooray, a new Mark,
yeah.
so to
That
speak.
you're right. That is a story for
And
another
just
time.
dumped
Yeah.
Harrow, and that's why Harrow's bitter, or if Harrow left because he,
Yeah.
like, as he says, he thought that this was the stupid way of going about things. So
Yeah.
it'll be
He said he
interesting.
broke him. What did
Kind
he
of
say?
want to
Something.
see Ethan in the outfit, in the suit.
Oh, we imagine that. Maybe. I
I
don't
mean,
know.
I don't know. I just every time he says I was an avatar of Contra, I'm like, oh, I'd
Yeah.
love to see you in that movie. Like, yeah.
But I mean, just totally heavy stuff that he says at the end. I'm just trying to rethink. He said something like, if you hadn't broken me completely,
I
I
wouldn't know
wouldn't
the
have
power of
found.
healing or
Like,
something.
my
Yeah.
God, so Conchi's really done a number on him. The
Well,
thing,
he thinks he has. I mean,
I think he has. Yeah.
it's like kind of victim talk, but yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, what you say about Khonshu, I mean, is right. I mean, that's another adventure in itself. What I like about it is, again, we're talking about, I talk about the essence and the spirit of the character, and there are all these other differences that people might pick on. But
Mhm.
I think the great thing is that because Khonshu and Mark have always had a tenuous relationship, it's never been a straightforward avatar. Look, I'm your avatar. Look, let me just do what you're
Yeah.
bidding. There's always been a little bit,
There's always been
something a little bit.
tension there.
There's always been tension. So I love the fact that Khonshu now is taken out of the picture, and he's not there to help Mark, although Mark is still serving him. So that to me is very kind of Moon Knight. It's another interpretation of it, but that
Yeah.
is him. And so it's whether or not it's Mark disowning him, like in the comics, but in this instance, Khonshu does something, because he believes in the danger of Amit. He gets himself cast in stone. I think it's great. I'm loving the Khonshu and the Mark relationship,
Yeah.
or the
And I
Mark
think
Moon
it's
Knight.
kind of solidified in this episode. We see a lot more of it. There's more of them talking about a range of different things. Plus, you get to see Mark acting as his avatar with the yelling voice.
yeah. Deceiver.
Yeah.
But no, Oscar does a fantastic job as well. I mean, I can see how Oscar is how he says he's having so much fun. I mean, all
Yeah,
these
I mean,
things he gets to do.
they're getting to do so
it's-
much.
It's so crazy. So yeah, no, absolutely loving it. I know. Is there anything else, Rebecca, for this one before we
I
kind
think
of?
we've covered all the sort of fast reaction-y stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we possibly
Now
could.
we are talking about rating this, of course, that we've rated the others. I see you filled in your one.
Yeah, sorry, I
Um,
just
no worries. So what using the KHONSHU system? What would you
yeah.
give this one? The friendly type.
I gave it an 8. A
Mhm.
big, beautiful yellow man.
Oh, nice.
I don't know
Lovely.
why. It just feels like there was something for it that just felt more. I get how it was all needed for the story to like
Mhm.
progress things along, but it felt a bit all over the place at times. I
Okay.
mean, 8's still a good score, right?
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
liked a
Yeah.
lot of it, but it also felt the most Marvel, the most MCU of the
Mhm.
3 episodes we've seen so far. That's not a
Yeah.
bad thing. It's just a kind of things down to how the fight went, and it was all very brief. But I really liked it. I liked a lot of the content, and I especially liked that kind of the whole sort of safeguarding discussion and
Mhm.
more than the action. But I like that we got the action. I like
Yeah.
that we got some good fights in there.
Yeah. Look. Yeah. I mean, I can't disagree with you there as well, Rebecca. I think also as well, one of the quibbles I've had, and it was raised in the last episode with the panel, is the special effects. And I think it
Yeah.
was actually better. I think it was better in this episode than say the previous two. The episode 1 I mentioned about that car chase. A lot of that looked like green screen.
Mhm.
And over here, I think I'm thinking about that purple, the purple, spell that KHONSHU does with Steven. I thought that looked really good actually.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it worked a lot better there. The scarab, I mean, that's all CGI, but that looked
That
pretty
looked
good.
pretty good, yeah.
Yeah.
I
So
th I think Conju looks great.
KHONSHU, yeah, I think KHONSHU always looks great. I mean, sometimes there's a little bit, he does look a little bit matte compared to everything else, but
Yeah.
they're just little quibbles. I gave it a 9, a full moon. So I was comparing it to last episode, and I think I gave last episode like an 8 or something, eight and a
Mhm.
half. So I enjoyed this one more, just because, yeah, we get to see Mark. It has a lot still on KHONSHU. We get to see Midnight Man. It moved things along, and Harrow's actually almost there. He's at Amit's tomb, so we're moving forward. And the relationship between Layla and Mark, and Layla and Steven,
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
is really
Becoming
nice
very
to see.
distinct.
Yeah,
Although,
yeah.
Hathor's avatar might be in there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So there you go, listeners. A good solid 8.5, say, out of 10 from Rebecca and myself on this
Yeah,
episode, The
let us know
Friendly
what you
Type.
think.
Yeah, absolutely. Please keep the discussion going. It's going great guns on Facebook. We get a few comments on Instagram, which is great, and Discord. I love it to see that is firing on all cylinders. Really, really fun stuff there. So get your thoughts in, share them with your fellow loonies, and yeah, what do you make of it? What do you make of these slight changes? What do you make of Mark now? You're seeing a bit more of him, and Layla as potentially Marlene. All very cool.
Yeah.
Well, I think that about rounds us off. Rebecca, I would be remiss if I did not say as well, I'm going to mention it every single time because these guys are brilliant. Go check out TV Podcast Industries as well. Derek, John, and Chris, they will give you the analyses that you will be looking for. For Moon Knight, they do a very thorough job, as well as being thoroughly entertaining and just fun to listen to. So I cannot recommend them enough. Go check them out as well. So I'll put a link in the show notes. But as for us, Rebecca, we'll be back. Pretty soon.
Pretty
We've got
soon.
a busy week, a busy
Our
couple of
second
weeks.
week in a row will be
Exactly.
too much of us, but it'll be fun.
Different formats though, so that will
Yeah.
keep things spicy.
This will be fun. Like I have
this
no
will be
idea
very
what to
fun.
expect with Black, White, and Blood.
This is, uncharted territory. So it'll be a moonshine. It'll come out very shortly after this episode because the comic has dropped today, the same day as the TV episode. So Black, White, and Blood. It's Moon Knight. It's Rebecca and myself. We'll go through it. We'll live stream it as well because it is a new comic book. Oh my gosh, I do have live on air on this thing here, Rebecca, but it isn't live on air. It's only for the
I didn't
patronies.
think it
So
was.
Sorry, Patronies. Let me take that away. There you go. Now we're all good. And I've forgotten to put up all the banners as well. Let me do that now. Here's man Rebecca, everybody.
Hey.
And
sorry, Ozzy didn't really show up, but if you're very observant and you're a
yes.
Patroni, he was jumping around behind me. He kept like jumping around, and so every time I kept turning to look, it was because he was doing another crazy jump, and I could only see it in the camera. So,
and he contributed to the prompt sheet as well, Rebecca. Just before we started,
he did. Yeah, he gave his thoughts. They weren't very deep.
Full of zeros. I saw.
Full of zeros. That's what he was calling us, basically.
These geeks, what are they doing?
Yeah.
But no, a huge thank you, Rebecca. I'll see you very shortly when we review again.
Have a good rest of day.
Yeah, everyone else as well. A big shout out again to our Patronies. I'm going to shout them out again. Starting off with Odin, Daniel, Drew, Frank, Justin, Derek, Kyle, Wayne, Jordan, Josh, James, Anthony, Russell, Michael, Mario, Gavin, and Matthew. Thank you so much, everybody. And if you want to join, please check out patreon.com/ITK Moon Knight. Again, our sponsors, CLZ Comics. Check out Collectorz.com. Frank Dukes, Frank the Tank. He's on Instagram. Just search for Moon Knight Visions with a Z. And he's got a Moon Knight dedicated page there. Daniel Doing's Fringe Knight. You can support him at patreon.com/FringeKnight27. And Drew Tombz, his music is both available on SoundCloud and Bandcamp. So check out soundcloud.com/Tombz with a Z as well. Or LURKMUSICK with a CK.bandcamp.com. And finally, with Dreamland Comics, use the code MOON to get 20% off all your back issues, all your Dynamans, all your Daring Mysteries, or Marvel Destroys. And finally, we're part of the collective, a great bunch of shows. Go check them all out as well. Again, Rebecca features on a couple of them, so I'm going to shout them out: DCAU, DC Animated Universe podcast, as well as Sons of the Dragon and Immortal Iron Fist podcast. But there's a whole slew of them. Go check them out. All character based, all geek based. And finally, you can catch us on email, feedback@itkmoonnight.com. Send us an email. We'd love to read it out or discuss it on the show. We're on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Discord, Get Vocal, and on Podchaser. And incidentally, if you'd like to give us a review, Rebecca and I would love that. It will just help us get out there a little bit more. So Rebecca, again, a huge thank you. I cannot wait for more episodes, and I cannot wait for Black, White, and Blood. This is going to be great.
I can't wait for episode 4 of this.
Yeah. So with that, Loony listeners, may KHONSHU watch over the denizens of the night. Catch you later.
Take care. Bye.
Moon Knight and affiliated characters, stories and events are properties of Marvel Characters Incorporated. Materials used and discussed within the podcast are intended for critique and review purposes only under the fair dealing concept of the current Copyright Act. The views, information or opinions expressed during the podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of the copyright owners.